Fantasy, baseball, statistics, just a little something we do around here. Alex Kiriloff is up. We're going to talk about that a little bit. I want to give you some of my early fantasy baseball observations. Got the MLB ticket. I've been tuning in, scouting players, seeing why things work and why they don't. So I just want to share some thoughts there. And then at the end, I'm going to go through the listener league. We got two leagues, doing a deep dive. The draft was only 2.5 weeks ago. Breaking down how some drafts went, breaking down some of the team's early moves. But I want to talk a little bit of good old fantasy baseball. You know, draft season really is my season. You're going to draft to get some players. You got in-season management, and then you got the playoffs. But it's important just to get out to a quick start. So I'm hoping some of your guys' teams are tightened up this season. You made a little bit less mistakes. You got a little bit more young upside that's popping off for you early in the season. It's not going to be perfect, but some things are going well for us. And it's almost as important to me to look at the things where I made mistakes, where I may have miscalculated, but we got to give some guys some time. We're still dealing with a pretty small sample so far. But first of all, Alex Kiriloff is called up. This is time to stop the video. Go over to your leagues, and if you can get them off waivers, do it immediately. Cut some fat, cut it off. If you got to put in a bid, you got to put in a bid on your fab or free agency bid. I'd say something chunky because fab in season with nightly waivers is a little thin. You can usually get a guy for nothing, 2, 3, 4. You know, people haven't really spent any money on the fab, so get up and put a teens in, put something in that you would get them for auction value. This is what I'm seeing from an Alex Kiriloff as a prospect who is kind of the first call up so far. And the reason we want to overspend, we want to go early here is because there could be a little bit of lightning in a bottle, and you would hate to have a game-changing level prospect get called up and start mashing and not be on your team. Alex Kiriloff is 23 years old at 6'2", 195. That's prototype size. Popped over to YouTube, looking at some Kiriloff highlights, and I'm seeing a strong foundation, a lot of leverage generated from the hips and from the legs, so there's power there. We look at the scouting report, prospects, the little write-up says Kiriloff has power and bat control, but be wary of corner guys with expansive approaches. Alex Kiriloff is trending toward first base. That's fine. Whatever they want to say about him, we can get some prospects right and some wrong. We're seeing a 50 current hit tool, future 60, game power, future 60, raw power, future 60 for a 60 future value player. The speed is a 30 and the fielding is a 40. He is up to hit. You can see in some of the highlights, they go, this is just major league hitting right here. So he's a big old lefty that seems to command the zone well. We don't have a lot of data on him, but let's just tease apart some minor league numbers. Jumps up into rookie ball. On a 328, BABIP hits 306 for 118 WRC+. The walk rate is only 13.8%, so he's immediately commanding the zone. We like to see that. Gets over to single A. K rate goes up to 16%. That's great. 16% we can live with. It's the mid-20s, the 30s that make us nervous. Again, hitting the cover off the ball for a 333 average and a 176 WRC+, so he was making things happen there. It gets up to high A. K rate is only 14% for a 168 WRC+. Double A, where he should be challenged, he's walking 7% of the time to an 18% K rate for a 121 WRC+, and he even stole 7 bases after they said he has no speed. So he was heady or getting a good jump on guys, taking advantage of slow releases. None of these projections make any sense because they got him projected for 380 plate appearances, but at this point in the season, if he's going to get full-time ABs, he's going to be looking at mid-400 to 500 at-bats, and with that kind of pop, we're just waiting to see what happens. We don't know what's going to happen, and looking at other prospects, it's lightning in the bottle, or it's not going to pan out, and one name that comes to mind for me is Andrew Vaughn, who I was hype on, who did get the job to start, but he had never really played, I don't even think double A, maybe a little bit. Only playing high A, makes a jump to the bigs. And I was scouting him early off the bat. and he was just completely overwhelmed. That's the big difference in the jump from the minors up to the big leagues, is that the off-speed stuff, the sliders, the curves and the changes, there's just so much more movement. He's either swinging at everything, he's whiffing over things, not recognizing pitches, or he can't lay off, and then he started to lose at bats, and then he's a part-time player, and it starts to snowball. It's not working out. But he had the chance. He's being cut in a lot of leagues. You can hold on there, and maybe he figures it out. He will be good eventually. That's why we keep going back to the well. But it just didn't happen for him right away. Just to touch in on the rest of the prospect, it seems like Kelenic is mostly owned, and people are sitting on that. The Mariners are teasing us with when they're going to call him up. It's soon, but it's not imminent. They're going to do it, and they're not going to abuse the service time, but he's not ready yet. So we're getting some mixed messages. You're probably going to continue to hold there. We're after the original Super 2 deadline, so there's nothing holding them back right now from service time, unless they're going to wait till the mid-June, July call-up, or then even the September call-up, which would just be gruelingly long when you're trying to flip through waivers and keep talent on your bench. But continue to stash Kelenic. If he's on waivers, it's time to stash him now so that you can be first and you don't end up in a bidding war like what's going to happen with Kiriloff today. Wander, on the other hand, it feels like a longer wait, but we're talking about an 80-grade player, so the potential upside is huge. If you've sorted out your closer situation at this point and you've got some spare areas, you got some guys to cut, maybe get into some Wander, depending on where you are. I just wanted to mention that. Now, I guess, an episode of Be a Doctor, I would just call this the Carnage Report. I mean, we can draft. We can only do so well in the draft before we face major league, just physical carnage that these guys go through. And I just, I played multiple sports growing up. I know about the workouts. And I just have to criticize the athleticism in baseball or really point out the challenges in baseball. The game is so long, and there is so much standing around. The two players that are busy the most is the pitcher and the catcher. They're busy. They're doing work. You could play right field, and you might not see a ball. You might see two balls the whole game for a multiple-hour game. And the guys just, it's an issue with staying warm. They're just not staying warm, but it's a very exciting sport. It's very bursty. I mean, if you smack a grounder to the left side of the infield, yeah, you're going to run hard out of the box. You want to punish that guy. The desire to get on base is so high that we saw a lot of injuries just running out of the box. I mean, I was watching the game. Where is he here? Who did I? Tim Anderson. First game of the season, just running something. Oh, he pulls a hammy, just coming up tight because you're trying to burst. You're not that warmed up. You're not loose. You don't have a good lather going. I almost wonder, this would be the evolution for me, is in the dugout, instead of those guys sitting there chewing seeds and gum, like, set up a bunch of bikes or something and let those guys just keep that lather going, because this amount of strains and pulls is just so severe early in the game. And then, of course, you've got the base. You've got diving into the base causing injuries, the way the foot strikes the base causing injuries. And my other comment, I guess, would be is that these guys are so obsessed with power and being strong. I mean, you can see who's been lifting. Everybody's working out. Everybody is bulging out of their shirts. There's a lot of power to be had. But where is the flexibility? Where, in the oblique and in the core, there is so much turning and torquing that we're seeing a lot of guys go down. And I'm just going to touch on all of the carnage because, in a way, you've just had to survive this first week and a half to have some players just be on the field and play well. Tatis Jr., shoulder subluxation. This is his shoulder coming out of the soft muscle and tissue joint, falling out occasionally, does a DL stint, comes back. I've got to be a little concerned. I mean, they gave him one game on and then they rested him the next day. Was he sore? So this will be an ongoing issue for Tatis. The thing I do like is that notice at 22, he can come back when the DL stint is over compared to some other older players who are not returning at the same time, like one Christian Yelich, who is out with the back. And this is my issue. My issue is the kinetic chain. Yelich, unfortunately, he's just turning 30. So all that youth and vitality that he has as a young player, it's starting to not be there as well. He's a little bit tighter. And if he didn't get all the strength back in his body, injuries in the feet, ankle, knees will make their way up through the system, through the back. And we're seeing that with the Christian Yelich who's out. Who else is out? Juan Soto, shoulder. Swinging hard, swinging for the fences. He's been lifting. They get off to a little bit of a slow start because you had the COVID outbreak. Juan Soto previously just had COVID, so whatever that might be doing inside his body, drying him out a little bit. He does a shoulder. Ronald Acuna Jr. on a take on an oblique. When I heard oblique in Ronald, I thought 6 weeks, 8 weeks, but unfortunately they called it a mild strain. Again, at 22, 23 years old, he's getting it right back. He's going to be jumping in the lineup here today. I got my boy Robert. He stayed on the field so far. I haven't seen the fireworks. The average came up. He's hitting second or third in the lineup. I'm continuing to be confident there. Mikey Trout hit by a ball, elbow contusion. Hopefully he doesn't hit the IL. Cody Bellinger. Cody Bellinger gets slid into and gets cleated. Doesn't immediately go in the IL, gets an MRI, but then doesn't heal, to end up getting a second MRI that he's doing a straight up stress fracture in the bone. I don't know if that came from the cleating, how he developed it. Cody Bellinger has been on the IL. We're running out of guys. Christian Yelich that I mentioned, he's out with the back. Backs don't really get that much better. Once a disc or a bulge or something, a hard strain, how is he going to come back and play at full power where we needed speed from him? We needed everything from Yelich, and he's not 100%. A little bit sad there. Mookie just recently hit by a pitch, has missed a couple games, but he's been pretty healthy. And then you got some collateral damage. So the outbreak in Washington of COVID to start the season held up a week-long series, so then you didn't get to see Pete Alonso. Or who else? Who else are we caring about there? Pete, Lindor. I was thinking of Dominic Smith. Now they're out to a slow start. So where other players are getting the rust off and getting their game-shaped legs underneath them, we've got to wait a little bit for the Mets to get their stuff back going right. The shortstops, just right off the bat, Alberto, gone with an oblique. Tatis, gone. Tim Anderson, gone. So shortstop, obviously an issue there. Shout out to Maynard. Maynard points out Jazz Chisholm could be a stud. So I had no issues really, because as soon as I lost Alberto in a couple spots, it was Jazz. I was there early and often giving him a shot, and it turns out that he's blowing up a little bit. Just what Maynard was hoping for. He received the job. We're not even talking about the backup. There's no sort of platoon. He went from hitting low in the order to being leading off. He's stealing bases, hitting home runs. So very exciting there. But it just shows, a lot of pain points there. Is Gleyber Torres busting in front of our eyes? I'm hearing talks about sending him down. I don't know what's going on. I'm in New York, so I'm getting blacked out on New York games on the ticket. So the games I'd want to probably see most, I can't see until the next day. So I haven't seen what's wrong with Gleyber's approach. I would continue to be high there. If you can lift a Gleyber Torres off of a frustrated owner because they just don't want to deal with him anymore, try to wear him down. I'm still immensely confident in Gleyber. We don't need to talk about Eloy anymore. He really started this whole waterfall of problems. Teoscar Hernandez out with the COVID. We lost Alex Bregman to COVID. George Springer hasn't been able to come back. Kevin Biggio with the finger. Kyle Schwarber to COVID. Ke'Bryan Hayes, opening day. Bloop. Pokes one out. We couldn't be happier. We've done it. We've got a stud. Oh, nope. His wrists hurt. And wrists are, there's little tiny carpals in here, 9 little tiny bones making up the wrist. Heavy bat, hitting it with velocity, a lot of torque, a lot of pressure. I don't know when he gets better from that. I wasn't very confident in it. So when I heard a day or two ago that he had a setback in his wrist, I thought, yeah, that pretty much figures, because once that wrist is sorted up, how is he going to really fix that? We saw that with with Will Myers a little bit, who suffered from wrist problems for like 5 years. Anthony Rendon, groin, 31-year-old, drying up, tweaked it maybe on a swing, maybe running bases. The power center coming from the groin. Anthony Rendon is out, doesn't come back when first expected. Miguel Sano goes out. Luke Voigt with the meniscus tear. Ketel Marte, I haven't even looked. I just heard that it looked really bad. I'm pretty sure he's on the IL. I didn't get much Ketel, but he was out. Josh Donaldson starts off with a hamstring. I mean, it's just there's not many guys left to survive this all. Max Kepler goes down with COVID. Altuve with COVID. I mean, is Dylan Moore busting? Is 28-year-old small sample size Dylan Moore just busting, coming up and hitting 180? Stole a couple bases, maybe one home run. I see him getting dropped in leagues after being a preseason fantasy darling. 28 years old. Why weren't you up sooner, Dylan Moore? Because now you got a book on you. Now guys are trying to, see what you really have. You're not just getting fed fastballs anymore. And he's not really adapting that well, which is probably why he didn't make it to the league until he was 28. Starling Marte on a check, starting off on fire, home runs, doing his thing, pushing that Miami offense. I think on a check swing, going to swing and then throwing the brakes on in the swing, just the core of the body collapsing in on itself, broke a broken rib. So it just a lot of force. Sad for him there. Gavin Lux going down with, I don't know if it was a wrist. I even forget. I can't keep all of the injuries in my mind, but I know he hit the IL. A little bit of closer carnage. Trevor Rosenthal. Let's spend that money on Trevor. Get me a high and close. Oh, no, he's gone. Rosenthal's gone. Closers are just maddening, trying to figure out who it's going to be, because there's a lot of mix and match early in this season. There's the new talk about high leverage players, so your strong reliever, you're throwing them in a leverage situation. Who's going to close in Cleveland? Is it James Karinchak? Is it Wickren? Oh no, maybe it's Clace, who we hadn't even really considered. Toronto, Jordan Romano, gone. IL, Merrifield, gone. Peter Fairbanks, gone. So you're continuing to have to adjust. My IL's 4 spots in Yahoo, just almost not enough. I've got IL spots filled to the brim. Eventually when some of these guys come back, it's going to hurt to make some decisions, to move some guys that have been serviceable. I was lucky enough to get a little bit of Ryan McMahon. Ty France has been serviceable. Some of these things that we've been plugging in throughout the way. But it just shows that, so in baseball, you're going to have to manage in season. We can draft, we can avoid injury by being younger so that guys will recover faster. But this was an unavoidable amount of opening season carnage, because guys just aren't warm. They're caught up in a very stop-start sport. And if you're just lifting, if you're just powerlifting, if you're just juicing all off season, and then you get into a game that requires a little bit more flexibility, it's going to catch up to you, and we're seeing that so far. That's my injury carnage. The other thing, as I'm watching baseball, watching games, a couple in-season observations, is that, we've had an edge here. We've said things like baseball savant and heard people go, what? So they didn't even know where to look for the stats. But these stats, they're making their way back into the game. So a guy's hitting a home run, and they're telling you that was 118 mile an hour exit velocity at a 22-degree launch angle. And they're spitting these stats out. They're becoming pretty natural in the game. Or they're talking a little bit about spin rates, but it's more so about the exit velocity. We might see sprint speed. I'm seeing runs from third to home. Oh, look, somebody hit 30.2 feet per second on a sprint speed. So the metrics are making their way into the game, making their way into the mainstream commentary, and I've shown the recipe as best I know it. Trevor Rogers of Miami, people are talking about the whiff rates on individual pitches. So this stuff will really only be a secret until leagues start to catch up, and that's why we've got to get out just a little bit more in front to make sure that I can keep delivering a little bit of value to be more right. And one thing I wanted to mention that we kind of closed with at the end of the season was exit velocity on barrels. And I spent more time in this after kind of poo-pooing the system on Baseball Savant. So I just want to mention where this is so we can stay a little bit more ahead, a little bit of a preview for future seasons. When you're on your Baseball Savant page, across the different drop downs, illustrated, game feed, scoreboard, probable pitchers, daily matchups, there is a search tool. You can click on search there. And I just wanted to go to why they kind of made this a little bit more attractive. So there's all these drop downs. Let me beat to the chase on the drop downs. The first column, player type, has to be batters because I'm going to talk about exit velocity on barrels only. Ignore all the other fields. This is the real mystery here. You can go over to quality of contact in the third column, and that will just give you on the drop down barrels. And then in the middle column on the bottom, this is where the money is, sorted by, and you can get a sorted by exit velocity. So now what we've done is we've narrowed down Baseball Savant. The part that I started to like is that the sort by, if you do the drop down multiple times, it will keep each of those stats. So I can actually include exit velo with launch angle, with XBA or something else that you want to see. So I kind of like that. In terms of years, in terms of season, when you click on season, we're in 2021, very limited sample, but you can add in with a check mark 20 and 19. So there's a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more customization that I like. And let's just take a quick peek in here, some early observations. It will say pitches as the first column, and I sorted by pitches because I want to see who has the most of these barrels, and then I can look at what the exit velo is on them. We know from preseason that a very high average exit velocity is a 108 average exit velocity on a barrel that we saw from like a Ronald and a Judge. So 105, you're still hitting it a lot. A Bo Bichette who has something like that. So when you hear about an exit velocity up well over 108 miles per hour, the person is crushing that ball out. The teens, mid-teens, low teens, you're crushing baseballs. But here we go. We got Rafael Devers. Looks like he's on 12 barrels, 107. Shohei Ohtani, 11 barrels, 108.7. Nelson Cruz, old man Nelson, continues to punish barrels, 108.6. And obviously, we're not taking any victory laps here. We're just going to talk about some things we're noticing early in the season, and I'm going to get to mention here a Byron Buxton with 11 barrels, it looks like, with an average 108.5 exit velocity. So hopefully a couple of you got a little bit of Byron Buxton out here. We have to be disappointed in Byron Buxton's steal numbers because he just keeps hitting home runs and he's not getting a chance to even be on base. Scattered in with injuries. He had a tummy ache. He had a hammy or something. I mean, one time he was hurt and I took him out of the lineup and he pinched hit for a home run. So Byron is clearly looks like we're seeing a full breakout from him, a grown man breakout here at 27 years old. Ronald Acuna, 109 exit velocity. Bryce Harper, 110. Matt Swolson, 108. Mike Trout, 109. JD Martinez, did you pick the right old man this season? JD Martinez, professional hitter, but the average exit velocity in barrels only 105. Pete Alonso, 111.7. Judge, 108. Soto, Nate Lowe. Look at Lil Jazz Chisholm Jr., 8 barrels with a 106 exit velocity, putting some out. Mitch Haniger's there. Bichette, 105.7. That's pretty much how he rolls. Fran Mill, only 105. So just one of those tools as the narrative makes its way back into common discourse. I like the search. I like sorting around for those a little bit. The thing with low average players, The one I'm looking at here is it's just hard to stomach. It's hard to get the home runs. It's like a Franmil Reyes. It'd be even worse to be stomaching Joey Gallo or Sano, who now has the hamstring. But I look at like a Franmil Reyes. I know he's going to get the 37 home runs. I know he's going to get the 32 home runs. I see the power. He's taking huge cuts. But he goes over. He just will over. So it's hard to know when to put him in. You've got so many outfielders to kind of flip in to get busy with. Another player I'm really liking, Trent Grisham, looking very five toolsy, just immediately jumping onto the scene for the Padres, batting leadoff. Just love what he is doing early in the game. I want to talk about a Nate Lowe who jumped out really quickly to start the season. He's batting fourth or fifth. Nate Lowe is 6'4". He looks good in the box. And so one of the things, I want to say what looking good in the box means to me. A player, just back to basics, almost something from golf, keeping your eye on the ball. Keeping your eye on the ball, the spot of the ball, past the contact. The elite hitters, Mookie Betts, even Tatis Jr., their posture is such that even as they swing through, their head is down. It's whiffs when your head is just spun out that you're not going to close out and make hard contact. So you can kind of see that in the approach. I also like to see a good torque, a good load up and ability to stop. That means that these players with very quick bat speed are able to react late. They're able to lay off stuff and spit on stuff. As well as, and maybe Bo Bichette is the best example of this, when something off speed comes and you get caught out in front, or you chased it and you just chased it and you fanned at it, seeing you get made look silly on off speed, it makes me a little more nervous than some of these other players that never get cheated. Bo Bichette, it doesn't matter if he doesn't make contact. The swing is the swing. He's getting his money's worth on every cut he takes. If it's off speed and he misses contact, okay. But when contact's made, it's a full man swing that he is coming through the ball very, very nicely there. And so not to say victory lap, I guess the thing that starts creeping into our minds is where are these guys going to go in next year's ADP? And you have to already be a little excited about Bo Bichette in next year's ADP. Vlad Guerrero Jr. What? Stop talking about the launch angle on him. He is run producing. He's mashing. He's hitting for average. And you can only imagine where some of this young upside, who people wanted to be conservative on. People wanted to wait for Vlad until the fourth, or that was a big deal. And what is it going to be next season? Trying to be ahead there. Some SPs off waivers that made a big difference. Steven Matz. So you really, to me, I didn't jump on here, but if you're a Steven Matz truther, if you know that 4 or 5 years ago he had 9 consecutive starts where he was like a 2 ERA and filthy, you knew it might have been a little bit about health. You might have been a Carlos Rodon truther, that you know that Carlos had a really filthy wipeout slider, but it was a Tommy John and maybe a second Tommy John. But when you see Rodon coming out and the velocity's up at 95, it was nice to be able to jump on hit there at a couple spots and keep it going. And then even a Trevor Rogers of Miami. So I get a little piece of Trevor, but then he gets blown up in his first start. And I kind of tell myself, don't just start taking pitchers that we didn't identify in the preseason for having filthy stuff and try to force it in for no reason, for no substantial backup. But then Trevor Rogers, next start out, it's a gem. And so getting back on Trevor, we're going to look at some metrics up here. Let's do that. So we can, this is the thing about the prep, breaking down the player profiles and seeing where we're at with certain players is that it's easy to check in and see, is it really working for a player? So I'm going to jump over to Fangraphs if I can get it. I'm going to go over to pitch type. Now, while the hitters, we've got to get a little rope too. I was getting concerned. Brandon Lowe. Are you busting on me, Brandon Lowe? I own an awful lot of Brandon Lowe. It was, and I'm getting concerned about it. And then just then he just gives me a couple dingers. They go, no, I'm okay with letting him go. I had him, the leash for the dogs that just run out 50 feet. I got about a 30-foot run around Brandon Lowe. So we're just going to give him time to work it out. Maybe he's pressing. Maybe it hurts him that Tampa Bay lineup isn't all that, and he's getting worked around a little bit. But here we go. We jump on the fan graphs. We jump on the pitch type. And the reason I'm here is to take a look at velocity. Because whenever my heart gets broken by a pitcher, and it's happening right now with Kenta Maeda, and I get very high into Kenta Maeda, and I call him an ace, and I'm making guys draft him, and I'm drafting him, and then he doesn't come out and do it, I just go, why am I drafting guys that have less than a 92 mile an hour fastball? I just can't stomach it. The fastball sitting 91. We'll get into Kenta and look at what some of the issues are, but I'd rather be up in velo than down in velo to start the season. Jacob deGrom, 98.9 on the fastball. Is that another tick, Jacob? Are you up one more tick to 99, to average 99? Because, these guys that sit 95, 96, when you watch them through a start, there's some reach back velo. There's some touching 97. But to sit 99 as your average, so Jake is going to continue, and look, he's throwing it 68% of the time. At this point, he says, I'll just throw this. Why put any extra strain on the arm? He hasn't been, he's throwing a little bit of slider at 91, a change at 91. But if he's throwing 99 and locating it, that's probably going to get it done. Sandy Alcantara, 97.4. Nathan Eovaldi, 97.3. What a trajectory his career has taken. He went from being throwing straight, getting hammered, Tampa Bay, the Yankees, ends up kind of closing for Boston to becoming Boston's number one starter. So Nate Eovaldi, he's got a big arm. He's mixing in 5 pitches. It's nice to see him sitting 97. Tyler Glasnow. We knew, watch out for that upside. We talked a little bit about how the innings were going to be a concern, but when Glasnow is going right, 97.2 with the fastball. And here's somebody who I've been looking at a lot, is Corbin Burns sitting 97. Corbin Burns coming out. It's only been 4 or 5 starts. There's already Cy Young talk for a young Corbin Burns. The thing that they're saying is very filthy. He has a regular four-seam fastball, but he's throwing a 96 mile an hour cutter that's just getting a little bit of movement on it. It's just coming so free and easy for Corbin Burns. They broke down a change to his pitch mechanics. He was really loading a knee, getting that knee way up. He just brought it to just a simple 90 degree, steps in and lets it fly. Very natural, pounding the zone, quality pitches galore. Corbin Burns is looking spectacular. I think I tuned in the other night and he had something like 40 strikeouts to no walks to start the season. Just a monster. Garrett Cole, 97. Zach Wheeler, 97. Brandon Woodruff, 96.8. Luis Castillo, 95.7. Who's already concerning some people, but stick with it there. Walker Buehler, 95. And here he is. Carlos Rodon sitting 95. Okay. Trevor Rogers of Miami, 95. Kikuchi, 95. Tyler Mahle, 94.8. Steven Matz, 94.7. Followed by Marquez, Darvish, Morton, all in the mid-90s. Pivetta, Senzatella. So the names start to drop off. But let me just touch a little bit on Tyler Mahle. I think he's one of the perfect examples of tunneling, of all the pitches looking the same. And I want to kind of contrast him with a Patrick Corbin. So Mahle's pitches do not have the sharpest break on them. And when you're watching that diagram that they have on the screen that they show each pitch come in and where they hit, that is only true basically for where the ball's hit. That isn't actually the path of the ball. And what I see from Mahle is that every pitch looks the same until like 2/3 of the way to the hitter. They're just coming out of the same zone. It's like this P that comes out 3/4, bing, bing. And if it's going to dive, it's at the last second. He's got a nice little change. I think he throws a little slider. It's not that the movement is really crazy as opposed to Kluber. Kluber has a curveball that just hooks at the end. But Malley, you just don't know what he's going to throw. And he works up in the zone so well, painting that top end of the shadow. And he has a little bit of reach back. So here I see Malley sitting 94.8. But Malley reaches back for 97. And I think that couple ticks of giddy up is when you just get up on a guy a little quicker, it's just they're just swing and miss, and he's even walking a lot of players right now, which is a little bit of an issue. I see you Darvish here, Ian Anderson pitching well, so we worked out the pitching. I have to say this after watching games, I want some more purity, so I almost want an electronic strike zone. This could be a little controversial. I'll make my case for electronic strike zone. The game is, all the umpires can call middle. They can see that. They all get middle. The issue is in the shadow. Going back to these zones, heart, shadow, chase, and waste. But some games are lived in the shadow. Darvish and Kershaw go tonight. Tune into that. Watch where those guys live. They just live in the shadow. Kershaw is never in the plate. All of Kershaw, he'd rather just walk a guy out in the edges and the corners than just serve something up middle. It's not going to happen. Darvish is the same way. So in watching this duel, we've got an ump whose strike zone is just garbage that night. It's hitting the same spot. It's a ball. It's a strike. It's a ball. Oh, it's way inside. It's a strike. Top of the zone. Sometimes a ball. Sometimes a strike. So it's just that little bit of inconsistency is maddening. I don't know how a hitter who is developing an eye for the zone is supposed to really get off in a game where the zone is expanded, where the ump is not only just the black, so the plate is buried under the dirt and the outside of the plate is black. So they call that, you can paint the black. And I guess if a little bit of the ball rides over a little bit of the black, that should be a strike. But if you're a whole ball's length outside the black or outside the plate and you're still calling strikes, do you expect hitters to just start chasing everything? To start swinging at garbage? You're not going to get good wood on a ball that's a couple inches inside the zone. So it's just interesting to me. If there was an electronic strike zone, it would be like ding, you just get it. You either nick the strike zone or you don't. It would be very consistent. But I know that takes some of the purity out of the game. The other thing is that when it's a Kershaw or a Darvish, and you see that curveball come in and just nick paint down in the corner, it's multiple Cy Young Clayton Kershaw up there. You're just, you're calling that. But if it's a Tyler Mahle or an Ian Anderson, a little bit of a rookie, then you might not get that call. The other thing that we're looking for as a commentary I'm seeing is just quality pitches. Pitches that a guy might have swung at. Not something that bounced in the dirt, not something that's 2 feet up high. And so some guys' control just leaves them. You can hear it's a release point, something in the mechanics, he's opening up, whatever you want to say. Suddenly control just leaves. And there's other guys that just have control of the P every time they toss it. It's very methodical. They're really using it from spot to spot. But the thing that I'm seeing is hitting the glove. The umpire, if the glove is set up low and away, if he has to go up high and you're in the shadow, you're probably not getting that because the umpire is not going to give you guesswork strikes. If the glove is there and then you paint shadow and he squeezes it and kind of pulls it in, you might get the strike. And I'm seeing some catchers, if it's already a strike, don't over pull it. Don't pull it up into the zone. And so it's low, it's inside, outside, it's all the shadow areas that there's a little bit of ambiguity. But for the really stud pitchers, really most of the game is being played there. We saw the emergence at the very end of the season on Fangraphs. My last thing I just remember on pitchers is really effort. I was watching a Dylan Cease. And Cease, sure, you're hitting 97, 98, but he's throwing so hard. He hit all his might. It's just very strong, and it's not coming off free and easy like a Corbin Burnes. It's like a maximum effort, and you can literally see it on his face, the frustration when he throws balls or when he loses control. And that's why I just like to see a little bit of a demeanor of a mound presence, to just let it go, to just continue to compete on your face, not let your struggles kind of shine through. Some pitchers are better than that than others, and I think it leads to them kind of losing a little bit of control. So Fangraphs adds CSW, called plus swinging strikes. And it was weird to me. I was like, well, why did you pick that? Because I checked that out on baseballreference.com. So jump over, open up some baseball reference. I'm jumping over there right now. It's going to take me a second because this thing's moving a little bit. We're going to go to 2001 all teams pitching. Called plus swinging strikes. So I've sorted that before. I saw it come up on Fangraphs. But called strikes is a little awkward because that's called shadow, which is going to be very kind of ambiguous. Why add it into swinging strikes? I don't know. I don't love the stat. When you sort by that stat, you have some of the top pitchers, but then you have some not. But I noticed in a game, CSW is being recorded as a stat. And I wanted to say, no, MLB. Go into pitching, go into the drop down and pitching, and look for pitching pitches. Pitching pitches. You got to scroll down below the teams to get to the players. And I just wanted to remind you of where it's loading right now. The metric that I really liked here, it is swinging strike percentage. Swinging without contact over total strikes. And this is something we saw in the preseason, but I think go back here because I'm trying to make sure, how do I feel about guys that aren't going that well? Are these guys going to adjust? Who to stick with? Who to really believe in? Let me read this. Swinging, and I really prefer this over called plus swinging. Swinging strike per total strike. Jacob deGrom, 36.8. It makes sense. They can't hit him. He's sitting 99. They're just whiffing at it. Shane Bieber, 31.7. Yeah. Corbin Burnes, 30.3. Here's a big surprise. Freddie Peralta, who I didn't really get any of. I haven't scouted enough of it. We'll see how healthy he stays. But Freddie Peralta, 30.1. Trevor Rogers, the 23-year-old lefty, 30. Jose De Leon, 27. Carlos Rodon, 27. Glasnow, 27. Scherzer, 26.5. Musgrove, 26. Garrett Cole, 25. So those are all very elite. So if you can lift a Rodon off of somebody, if any of these guys were on your waivers, if you could lift a Trevor Rogers off of somebody, I would go and do it. Joe Musgrove, 26. Garrett Cole. Alex Cobb, 24.9. Multiple years ago, before Alex Cobb got injured, wow, man, he was doing it at Tampa Bay, I believe. He had a little bit of a splitter that worked. He was filthy for a second, so as he refound a little bit of that form, 24.9. Caleb Smith, 24.8. Alcantara, 24.7. Blake Snell, 24.5. Clayton Kershaw, 24.2. Kenta Maeda, 23.8. So I don't want to panic on Kenta. He's not giving us the 27 that he had last season or the 25 from the season before. So we'll have to watch out for him. We know that mid to high 20s on swinging strike per strike is what we really like. Andrew Heaney, Lance Lynn, it's about to fade off. Lance McCullers at only 22.7. At 22.7. Lucas Giolito, 22.6. Lucas Giolito has a very funky release. It's not that natural. It's kind of like from the neck. He kind of like pushes it in there hard. And he just took a drubbing from the Boston Red Sox to start the week. But I'm sure he's going to be fine there. These numbers could change a lot in just a single start. But these are the guys who are jumping out very high. The velocity probably is not going to change that much. And so one of the guys I'm having a little bit of a love-hate affair with here is Patrick Corbin. Let me see if I can jump over and check out what's happening with Patrick Corbin. 31. We know he has it. I think it was 3 bad starts. I couldn't take anymore, so I drop him. and then he goes out and he gets 6 innings done. It's just like, just driving me crazy. I saw a Patrick Corbin that looked maybe broken to me. Fastball sitting 90.5. I'm already a little concerned. So his slider usages going back the past 4 years, 38, 41, 37, 40. We know Patrick Corbin's pitch is the slider. He suddenly is only using it 30% of the time. He's trying to force a changeup back into his arsenal that sits 79. Well, the slider was sitting 78. So they're trying to get him to use this pitch. It's never worked before, but they're like, Corbin, you need to be more than a 2-pitch pitcher. You've got to throw something other than the slider. But we're all paying the price for it. I didn't go into a breakdown of the game log, but we see Patrick Corbin with a swinging strike that is way down, and it has to do with him not using the slider as much. The other thing I've noticed, and this is what I meant with the trajectory of the balls, is that release point. There's a lot of lefties out there. Tariq Skubal, even Trevor Rogers, Patrick Corbin. These lefties that are throwing sub 3/4 out from the left, just kind of hanging it out. The ball is coming in from way off the plate. What I'm finding is when that ball misses outside to a righty, when the lefty's missing outside, if it's a couple inches off, if it's a baseball, 2 baseballs length off, it's never in the zone. It's way out over there. And so it's very easy for guys to lay off a lefty working outside from what I'm seeing, unless they're really painting the edge. Patrick Corbin's curveball, because of his low arm angle, is just kind of a sweeping diver. It's not something that comes in hard and straight and breaks. Mallet is very center, very, very right in the middle of the zone. So think he can work left and right. You can't really tell. You can't tell what he's going to do. But Corbin's stuff just isn't breaking so hard. And I just think when they have to throw a slider or a changeup that doesn't have enough bite and comes in from the side and sits middle, it's getting walloped. So I'm just a little bit nervous there. Let me jump over. I want to see, can I get a Kenta Maeda? We can see exactly where this stuff is broken, and I think that's why it's worth putting the work in the preseason. Look at these players. I go, all right, shit, is it time to panic with Kenta Maeda? Let me see. He's still leading slider. The slider's got a 32.9% whiff rate. Okay, good. The fastball velocity is 91, down half a tick from last season. You never want to see that. Even the slider's already gotten banged for 3 home runs, so that's not good. The real problem here is that in 2020, Maeda was throwing a changeup with a 45% whiff rate. And in this year, he's throwing a little bit less changeup, a little bit more four-seam, and it's only got a 23% whiff rate. So a very field pitch, the changeup for Kenta is not working as well or at all because 23 is terrible compared to 45. So I don't know if it has to do with sequencing or feel or because it's a little cold out and Kenta needs to warm up a little bit and get that changeup working a little bit better. I mean, this changeup has whiff rates 2018, 47%, 2019, 35%, last year, 45%. So when that pitch comes back on, when that starts clicking again, I think you're going to see Kenta click all together. We're going to have to see how he's handled going a little bit further into the season. Just some more injury devastated. I mean, Paxton, I gave Paxton a shot. He made it an inning. You know, he's done. Tommy John probably again. Dinelson Lamet looked great for 2 innings, forearm strain, never good. He's going back on the shelf. That may not come together this season. So guys are just falling apart. That's some of my player stuff to look at. There's always going to be a little bit more to pitching that's not captured in the metrics, and it is those soft skills, soft heuristics of somebody of mound presence, how the delivery is, the free and easy, the max effort, the glove hitting. We can talk about that a little more as I'm trying to review players and scout just a little bit more. We're going long. That was it for players. I'm just going to go through a nice team-by-team breakdown for the boys, for the ladies and gentlemen who jumped into the leagues. I have to say, as we start this off, we got 3 teams that are unmanaged. If anybody wants, I'll name them as I go through the review. If Ryan's team, Casey's cool team, or Dead Money are out there listening, You guys got teams out there. I could use 3 managers to jump in this league with the OGs who are hungry, who hit waivers. This is a dope competitive league. Ryan's team, unmanaged, drafted by the robot, is started off the season in second place, 12-6-2. If somebody wants to manage that. Casey's cool team, 8-9-3, hasn't even been touched. Middle of the pack, 7th team, and then we got dead money, dead last at 6-13-1. That's going to be a tough task to re-owner. And I should have done it. I wanted the OGs from the old league to have priority, so I didn't want to have them sign up again. We came out with the second league. We ended up with 8 teams, but it's been kind of sick. That's the second one I'm going to go through because I expanded the rosters, so all the talent was on our teams. So it's just a loaded team. It's a smorgasbord. It's kind of fun just having so many players and so much action in that league. Let's break down. My thought is this. I want to give you guys a little more. You like the team review. I want to break down your draft, and then I'm going to look at your team and see what kind of adjustments you made after the draft. I might have to jump over to here because that machine's going a little bit too slow for the pages that I'm going to have to flip through here. Because draft review, and I thought about grades, and I was like, well, I can just give these guys, I can give them a little bit deeper breakdown. Let's talk about how some of this stuff went. I'm just going to kind of go in order, and then I'll give the grade as we go, and then we'll jump over the team. We start off with a Blazin' Blazers. Blazin' Blazers. Blazin' Blazers, obviously, in the draft, goes heavy, heavy, heavy. Stars and scrubs. Trevor Story, $47. Juan Soto, $56. Christian Yelich, $50. Ozzie Albies for $28. Gets an Edman. Aaron Judge for $26. Aroldis Chapman for $16. And basically, his draft looks like it's over. It is 15 rounds of $1 players. Did he get any value here? He had $1 Trevor Rogers. That might have worked out. The waiver, David Fletcher, that's worked out a little bit. Really nothing. Leody Taveras. Gosh, has Leody Taveras let me down? He can't even hit to get on base. These guys are injured. Jake McGee, I think, is injured. Adam Ondavino, Rimel Tapia. So it's really going to come down to how well did Blazin' Blazers manage his team to deal with the stars and scrubs? Was he able to fill in his team? Let's pop over here, see what his team looks like today, and did it work? Well, he's starting off 7-12-1, and I believe matched up against me this week. So that's not going to help because I am giving him a little bit of a 1-9 whooping here. Do we see any fill-in? Well, we see an injured Soto and an injured Yelich. And that's where stars and scrubs can really hurt you because you got so much invested in those players. He fills in with a Joey Votto and a Mullins, using a Yuli Gurriel, a Kike Hernandez, who's been good, who's finally getting full-time at-bats from Los Angeles. He's got a little bit of work to do. He's trying to piece together a staff using a Huascar Yanoa, JT Bruderbaker going today. We'll see how that goes. Did the pitching work out? Robbie Ray, Jake Junis. I think he's going to have some work to do. I think Soto and Yelich on the IL is going to make that be a really tough season. Moving on to gap slapping pimps. How did this draft go? He gets a Francisco Lindor, Jose Ramirez, the reconnection of the Cleveland studs, Lucas Giolito for $34. I would have liked it. I like you getting your ace. I know that Boston start was painful. Whit Merrifield, Kenta Maeda, I feel your pain. I mean, I should almost be blamed for having you have to get that kind of Kenta, but stick with it. Liam Hendricks, Austin Meadows, who's been good. Keston Hero for 19. He looks like a player. We're just waiting to see it come through the bat. Muncy, Jeff McNeil. And let's see the round out here. Taylor Rogers, Soler has been good for $4. I think he was heavily underestimated. Tristan McKenzie, a guy with just very smooth delivery from Tristan. I saw him lose control of his mechanics. Tristan McKenzie was rolling so well, and then all of a sudden could not find the zone. I couldn't quite see what happened to him. It was amazing how smooth the mechanics would be for them to just disappear, but then have him refine them. So it shows how much repetition is required to pitch really well. Alex Verdugo, it's working out a little bit. Ian Happ, I want it to work out so well for Ian Happ. The Cubs are even more committed for it to work out to Ian Happ. They continue to bat him leadoff despite him hitting like 190 with maybe a home run or an RBI. Just a brutally painful start for Ian Happ, who does not look comfortable in the zone. I don't like how stiff he is. I'll be honest, I don't like how stiff Lux looks in the box. I just like to see a little bit more movement. I like to see the eye on the ball a little bit better. Working through a Correa, Soroka, Urquidy, Herman, Romano. So late in the draft, Gap Slap and Pimps gonna have a little bit of a tough time there because so much of that pitching has kind of dried up for him a little bit. Gap Slapping, though, is working it out. He's in fourth place at 11-8. Let's see how Gap Slapping has adjusted here. Everybody's in the lineup. Everyone's pretty healthy. Verdugo, Soler, Meadows, all kind of coming together. You got Correa now batting leadoff, which is nice. Witt, who I've been throwing shade on, has been hitting nicely. Muncie's been hitting well. And yes, he's kind of resting Ian Happ and Keston Hiura, sure. Frankie Montas working through relievers, trying to get something out of Pomerantz, getting Garcia after Baskets pounded. TJ Anton, Giolito McKenzie, and he's got a little bit of Corbin. So that staff is going to be legitimate there. That's a lot of starters between Corbin, McKenzie, Giolito, Maeda, even Montas, who's been decent. So I think Gap Slapping is in a good position. He's got Kepler on the DL right now. It should come together for him. Pretty consistent, solid team. Already in fourth place, off to a good start. The Grandal Opry. Where's his head at? It was interesting in auctions to see, after we heard a lot in the preseason, the shortstop double tap, to do it in an auction draft where you get to pick. But here we see Grandal Opry looking like he's going to do a little bit of a shortstop double tap. Trey Turner to get his speed for 50, Aaron Nola for 33, Corey Seager for 26. Eugenio Suarez, big Corbin Burns for 27. That looks like value. Hader, Kevin Biggio. Stick in there with Biggio. We know Biggio's going through the finger. I know Biggio's going to come together and deliver us for us here shortly. I like the Matt Olson pick. That's value for $16. Will Myers, the Yaz, Mike Yastrzemski, Josh Bell, Michael Brantley, Alcantara, Eliezer Hernandez, Sano, Fairbanks, Savale, who has been great, Santander, Christian Javier, Chris Martin, Drew Smiley, who got injured, and Buster Posey to close. I mean, that's a complete draft by Grandal Opry. That kind of draft, I think that's an A draft there. You're living early, getting speed, high-end pitching, pulling value at Josh Bell for $3. Wow. And then really closing out hard, Chris Martin relieving at Atlanta, Savale, getting kind of a resurgent Buster Posey in. Has it worked? Let me jump over to the team. I would be surprised if Grandal Opry isn't off to a good start here, and he sure is. He sure is. He's 12-8. He's in third place right now. Grandal Opry will probably continue to be a handful. Let's just take a peek at where he is at, what he's done with the team if he's tinkered through some of these injuries. Infield looks intact. Josh Bell, Kevin Biggio, Suarez, Trey Turner, love it. Myers, the Yaz, Brantley, Seager, Olsen. There's no holes in that lineup for Grandal Opry. Santander on the IL, no additional bench bats. Oh my God, the pitching IL, Elser Hernandez, Fairbanks, Smiley, Chris Martin, all on the IL. Cueto on the IL, he doesn't even have room for him. But between Nola, Burns, Hader closing, Savale, working through Devin Williams, Alcantara, he's going to flash some Dan Dunning today. You see a pretty strong staff from Grandal Opry who jumped out nice and early this season. Dead money. I'm not going to give, dead money. This is the bot here, talking about who the hand have and maybe even the way the bot drafts, but we know dead money is in the bottom here. Bauer, Kershaw, And then the bot just wanted teams players. Rizzo, Conforto, Teoscar, Gray, Altuve, Chapman, Stanton, Carrasco, Hand, some mistakes, Bundy. Plesac is on there, Eddie Rosario. This team is out there. Let me see if we can tease somebody into wanting to own a little bit of Dead Money's team. Really a reconstruction project. Just going unmanaged. Altuve, Teoscar in the lineup. Injured Christian Walker. Bench bats. Can't get Dylan Carlson in the lineup. But there's some pieces here. Eddie Rosario, Matt Chapman, Bauer, Kershaw, Carrasco when he comes back, Wheeler, Bundy, Plesac. I mean, if this team got a little bit of love, they would be okay. There's some good value in there, but it looks like they're just going to kind of be a bye week until we get a manager in there. The Answers team, very aggressive stars and scrubs. Let's see how we worked it out here. Tyler Glasnow for 26 gets his first ace. He doubled up on the junior, Acuna Jr. with Tatis Jr. with Mondesi. And we know that that's going to be a pain point because Mondesi has yet to swing the bat. Tatis just getting back. Acuna just leaving. Yordan Alvarez had COVID. He's just been leaving. Blake Snell. Any of these late picks of value here? Bomb, Sixto. With great velocity comes great injury risk. This Sixto shoulder acted up on him. They say he's feeling better. I want him to come back. Get Sixto off of waivers. Because I believe Sixto is going to be hot when he comes up, but there's a lot of risk there. He's almost going to be ready soon. Let's see the late picks here. Winker's been decent. Riley. Frazier's been slipping. Ryan McMahon out of the gates. Very nice. Skubal, Boyd, Kikuchi, Talon, Taijuan Walker. So some okay things here. Let's see here how the Answers team, if the answer got in here and kind of filled in some of these holes. Bomb at first base. McMahon, Jonathan India off waiver as a prospect. Coming up, breaking camp, hitting for average, hitting in the middle of the lineup. He's hitting 7th today. Tatis and Acuna, they're both healthy again, so he's really waiting to see that team hit full stride. Yordan Alvarez. Winker has been great out of the leadoff spot, finally getting his chance. Working a Joey Wendell and a Jazz Chisholm. So this is an owner getting in there, doing work. Already got Alex Kiriloff on his team at 7:30 in the morning today. Sitting on Wander Franco, Austin Riley. Clearly playing the long game. Just has to piece the team together around the studs, and I think he's doing that. Jamison Tylon, Kikuchi, Snell, sitting on Kopech, sitting on Sixto Sanchez, Tyler Glasnow, Taijuan Gibson, Matt Boyd. It's coming together. The Answer is obviously working on the waivers to make some things happen. Been pretty aggressive there, been able to fill it in. I do want to talk about Michael Kopech. Michael Kopech is a stud. Michael Kopech is sitting 98. The White Sox know that he is a starter, but they're using him out of relief. What I'm seeing from Kopech is a guy who went one inning, then he went 2 innings, then he went 3 innings. And if you notice, there's a chance that the White Sox are stretching out Michael Kopech to be a starter. Another 3-inning start, maybe give him a sim game, get him up to 5 innings, and then you say, you know what, Michael, you're too filthy to be in the bullpen, and you're now a starter. And that's a hidden ace, so I'm telling guys, get Kopech up off of waivers, get him onto your teams, because I think you might have an ace in the making with Sixto. And you know, these aces, they're hard to come by at this point. The Answers team, I mean, it's yet to be seen. It's hard to be down on the stars and scrubs because you got Tatis and Ronald. You know, I can't think it's that bad. And when you piece it together, I'd say the draft itself is probably B+ because the depth wasn't there. You didn't really stretch the team. But at the end of the season, stars and scrubs teams can really prove us all wrong by blowing up and filling it in. So the jury is still out on how the Answers team did. Ryan's team. I believe Ryan's team is one of the teams that we have, yes, second place, Ryan's team. The bot, the unmanaged bot squad. This is who you could have. Let me tease it. I won't even bother with who's drafted. We'll go right to the team because this is what they got. Velasquez, Hoskins, Dylan Moore, Nolan Arenado, Kyle Tucker, Castellanos, Laureano, Moncada, Pollock. On the bench, Kalenic, Jared Walsh. Jared Walsh, who has been receiving healthy at-bats this season for the Angels. Love what he's doing so far. Nick Solak, the Texas Ranger, with Darvish and Scherzer, Kirinkak, Presley, Woodruff, Gallen is there, Greinke is there, Musgrove. Oh, I see why it's happening now. I mean, the pitching on this staff is filthy. Darvish, Scherzer, Woodruff, Greinke, Musgrove, 5 or 6 aces, not even counting Gallen. Pretty nice team. Jared Walsh not in the lineup. There's a lot of moving pieces here. This team needs some love, needs some ownership. Feel free to jump in there if anybody's interested. Hit me up in the comments or fire me off an email. OB Long Ballers starts it off with a Garrett Cole 49, Vlad Guerrero Jr. 39, Harper 40, Xander 33, Chris Bryant 15, Real Muto 22. I call Realmuto 3 Advil so you don't get a headache at catcher. Trevor Rosenthal for 11. Raisel Iglesias, Edwin Diaz. Got a little bit closer happy in there. Kind of going his own way. Rafael Montero, Noah Syndergaard stash, Donaldson, Marquez, David Price, who got moved into the pen, Keuchel, Chris Sale, stash, Kane, Villar, who's lost some at-bats, Margot, Eovaldi for $1, who's really surprised. Gonsolin got sent down, and Daniel Bard, who is closing but had a couple blowups. So, OB Long Ballers, I like the high end of that draft. I would give it A-. I'm so high on where the high-end effort was on those studs, on Vlad, Harper, Xander. Did it get closery? Let's go to the team. Let's see. OB Long Ballers sitting at the 5 spot. Aggressive on the waivers, has made 25 moves at 11-9. It's going to be piecing it together. Let's see what this team looks like currently here a little bit. Tidy, only one bench bat. Working Vlad. Working Jed Lowry and Eduardo Escobar at the middle infield. Interesting. Jed is hitting second. Xander. You got Bryce Bryant, Brian Reynolds, David Fletcher, and he gets a little piece of Yermin Mercedes in the outfield, one of the breakout players for the White Sox this season. Pitching-wise, Keuchel, Ian Kennedy, Raisel Iglesias, Fulmer, DeSclafani, Eovaldi, Garrett Cole, Syndergaard when he gets back. I think it's a little spotty for OB Long Ballers, managed by Edgar Gore, who I believe is in the next big league where he's pretty loaded. What do I see happening? I think that second base, third base has to be tightened up a little bit. I'm okay with the Brian Reynolds and how he's breaking out. Will the pitching work? It's closer heavy. Ian Kennedy, Bard, Iglesias, Gallegos, Edwin Diaz. So the RP are going to kind of carry the day. He's working at a DeSclafani. It's a solid team. It's a solid team. The middle infield I'm a little bit concerned about, but it should be solid. And I have no doubt that Edgar can manage his way into being a serious force. California Waves. Where's this draft going for California? Shaney Bieber, 40. Machado, 34. Freddie Freeman, 49. Rendon, 30. Flaherty, 28. Castillo, 27. Gets an Eloy for $1. Lucas Sims, Ryu, Morton, Swanson, Urshela. And then it's dollar days. Turner, Kepler, Segura, Profar, Aguilera, Mancini. So there wasn't a lot there. But on the high-end side, that's a lot of aces to have a Shane Castillo with Jack Flaherty. I want to see how California Waves works this out in season. Let me also check. California Waves tucked in there, 10-9-1 in the 6th spot, has been grinding waivers. He's got a little Garrett Hampson on the squad for some speed. Dansby Swanson using Nimmo for that average. The outfield of Nimmo, Avicel, Garcia, and Jerkson Profar, that's a little bit light on power for me. Nate Lowe and Justin Turner, I like. Turner's going to be consistent. He's got to get Josh Donaldson at bats off his bench. Losing Anthony Rendon, a $30 player, is going to lighten him up a little bit, but the pitching looks so solid. Ryu, Castillo, Flaherty, and Charlie Morton, who just doesn't want to leave the game yet. Richard Rodriguez for saves. Rafael Montero's been good for saves. And then, of course, Shane Bieber anchoring the staff. So California Waves is going to be a handful when he comes in pitching. He's down 3-7 this week to Grandal Opry in what is a serious battle. Let's just see who's winning this. We got Waves up in volume. Ooh, this is a battle. Look at these ERAs, 2.68 to 1.61 with sub 1.14 whips. This could go any which way. But yes, Grandal Opry with the bats is kind of pushing around Waves, who's a little light hitting only 191 this week. Dropping down, Casey's Cool Team. I believe Casey's Cool Team is one of those teams that's just a free-for-all. Come and get it. Looking for an owner. Looking for a manager to manage Casey's Cool Team here. Let's see what they got. We can skip how they drafted because it was just kind of how the bot went to work. And an unmanaged team, you see stuff like this. You got Darno, we got Luke Voigt, Gavin Lux in the lineup. But there's a Devers, Baez, Ozuna, Pham, Goldschmidt, a bench full of bats. Carlos Santana, Haniger, Senzel, Polanco, Madrigal. But pitching-wise, you got Jake DeGrom, Walker Buehler, McCullers, Stroman. I mean, this team obviously needs some love. It needs to have a bunch of these hitters whacked off the team. The IL spot slid over. You make about 7 moves. Soria, Free, Diego Castillo, all in the IL. You know, this is looking like a pool that hasn't been maintained in a little bit of while. It's getting filled up with leaves and sewage, and if someone could come in and clean it up, there's some beauty underneath it all. So that's out there. Let me know if anyone wants to get in here and reclaim Casey's Cool Team. Obviously, if we get 3 hungry owners back in this league, we can roll through these boys and we can continue this into next season. Got a nice little squad there. Let me see who else we got. Bayou Bombers. Mike Trout, $45. Value. Super value. I mean, you wonder if guys were sleeping, how that could happen. Follows it up with Mookie Betts for 53. Follows it up with Bellinger for 36. Love it out of the gates. He's just dealing with a missing Bellinger. So we haven't seen this team at full strength. Wants to hit for average, it looks like, with a Jose Abreu and a DJ LeMahieu. Kenley Jansen to close. Gausman, a nice pick. Gurriel. Jesus Luzardo for 11, coming off a nice start. Chris Paddock coming off of giving up 5 runs. Moustakas living late here. Spending up a little bit. I see it's all $2 players. Pablo Lopez. Marcus Simeon's been great. Colome Hicks didn't get the job. Eflin's been serviceable. Marco Gonzalez. Will Smith. Gary Sanchez. Kimbrel for only $2, Amir Garrett, Andrew Vaughn. It hasn't worked out, but CJ Cron. So this is a nice draft. I mean, that's an A draft from Bayou Bombers. Really working at all phases of the draft. High-end studs, filling in with value solid players, closing out with closers and role players. Let's see. But Bayou has struggled to get W's this season as he's in 11th place at 7-1. But don't worry, this week he's roaring back 8-2 over OB long ballers. We look at the team. How has he rounded it out? Infield looks good. Abreu, Gurriel Jr., LeMahieu, Simeon. Outfield is Betts, Trout, Tyler Naquin, who's been on a tear to start the season. Jack McKinstry in the outfield, really getting cute. CJ Cron working through some of Andrew Vaughn's struggles. He's batting 8th today. Putting it together with Paddock, Eflin, Luzardo. You know, Gausman, Pablo Lopez. So I think what's happening a little bit, Bayou's got to get that pitching has to step up for him a little bit. Doesn't have in the pocket true high-end pitching, but this week he is pitching the pants off of OB long ballers, as well as a very tight race between the bats. Whiz Kid. Big shout out to Whiz Kid, who misses the draft, gets a quick note from the community league, jumps in there and starts managing. A lot of love going out to WizKid, getting in here, grinding. We need those owners. We need those owners just managing teams to make it competitive. Let me take a look here at what WizKid has done with the squad. So WizKid's in 8th place, 9-10-1. It's so early. I mean, all the teams between 12-8 and 7-12. It just is going to take a week before these all shake out. Dominic Smith at first base. Colin Moran, who's been hot at second. Useful. Kyle Seager. He's got the Bregs. Starling Marte hits the IL. That's going to hurt a little bit. J.D. Martinez has been hot. Blackman. Grichuk, who I like in Toronto, where they might fix his swing. The name I was thinking of was a Jose Bautista, who really got hot and blossomed late in Toronto. They have a great hitting coach. Grichuk, On the bench, Tim Anderson, happy to get him back. Waiting to get Springer back. So WizKid's got a little bit more to go. He's got to keep managing. He's got so many. Lance Lynn, Strasburg, both on the IL. Framber Valdez, IL. Jose Alvarado, COVID. But he's got Freddie Peralta, Holland, Kendricks, Barrios, Eduardo Rodriguez, Andrew Heaney, Michael Pineda, Jordan Montgomery. So, this is WizKid has been ravaged by injuries. Losing Starlin Marte can't help. Kettle Marte can't help. Springer. I say give WizKid 2 or 3 more weeks. Let him get some of those players back. He's got a pretty deep squad with pretty good high-end pitching. It's just the health ball hasn't bounced his way so far. That wraps up that league. I'll give you guys a little taste of where I went. The DailyJLee squad: Luis Robert, $30. Bo Bichette, $38. Arozarena, $21. Pete Alonso, $35. Glaber, $23. Brian Hayes, $11. Shohei, $3. Ian Anderson, Trent Grisham, Brandon Lowe, Dinelson Lamet, Julio Urias, all for teens dollars. Byron Buxton, Contreras, Patrick Corbin, Male, Franmil Reyes, James Paxton, broken. Kluber, broken my heart. Otani, the pitcher, Cronworth, Pomerantz, and Devin Williams. Devin Williams has been getting mashed around. So, going back over just a little segue before I jump into the next and how am I doing this league. I got out hot. I think I might have been playing an unmanaged team to start the season, so I am in first at 13-7. Have I made some tweaks to this team? Brandon Lowe, finally. I used some Ty France at third base because I lost Key Bryan. The outfield has pretty much been the same. Otani and Buxton. Glaber's getting a breather on my bench. I'm working with Urias. Rodon kind of blessed me. Got a piece of Clace. Kendall Graveman, who I want to cut. And picked up some Kluber, Lamet, and Nate Pearson on the bench. And I think Nate Pearson, it's time to stash that. Move him into your team. Get him on the IL. It's going to be hard to find quality pitching in the season. So just get Nate Pearson off of waivers and tuck him away. A little bit of salary cap draft strategy. This was my evolution. If you made it in here 1 hour and 15 minutes, you're going to get my new secret sauce. And this is where I went at the end of the season. I wasn't able to get back in here and tell you guys what I was doing. We talked a little bit about FU money, and that's when you're in the beginning of the draft and you have tons of money, and you can spend basically anything on any player. What I decided to do was to aggressively nominate my guys every single time it's my turn. Every single time. Just dispense with nominating other players to get money out of the draft. Realize that's foolish. I want to get money out of my hand. And I do believe this is working. Let me tell you a couple features that has worked with. Nominate the player that you believe you want the most, that you're going to get the most resistance to getting. Because you have the most stack. And if you nominate your most wanted player when you have your most stack, it's going to be the easiest and best position for you to get this player, for you to have this fight. Player after player after player every time you come up. The reason I started to like this is because it had to change the game a little bit. You had to keep people off your back. And what I realized is nominating into my hand is the most effective way to give my shots at bidding on players I want. Other guys eventually are going to also nominate players I want. But that just adds in, those two things sum together to be me getting more shots at my players. Also, because I want to fight off of being forced to get a player late or somebody nominating crazy and nominating a sleeper and me not knowing, well, do I want to get him now or the other player? The sooner I get to the guys that I want, the better off I am. What I found was I'm buying more players in the first 100 picks, in the first 80 picks. The more players that I have that are from the top 100 as opposed to the top 200 by trying to wait and play sleeper games, I think is going to be better for my team. What I also noticed is it becomes so blatantly obvious that I am nominating my guys just to go win them, that the game of chicken of are you going to bid me up starts to swing in my favor. So I can nominate my guy that's most important to me, but I can also really push you up really high to an overpay and just cut out and leave you hung up. So you don't know how much I love that guy that I would be willing to drive you up 10, 15 over value. If you were pushing him up only to screw with my team, but not because you wanted that guy, you're not going to like when I just stop bidding and now you had an overpay. So occasionally I would have to get off of my guy. It's not a blind aggressive go, but the thing that works better is there's not as much time for people to nominate the sleeper, the replacement player, the person down my ladder, so that even if I have to let, yes, that was my top guy, but the price got ridiculous, I can let it go. And so now the target is a little bit different because after I've done this 5, 6, 7 times, now when I nominate a player, they pretty much assume that I want to buy that player again. So I think it turns the tables. I like getting my money in. And the easy thing is because I know I get a comfortability level of where I have to stop bidding at $60 or $50, and I just slam on the brakes. You just spend, get your guys. If other people nominate your guys, get those guys, and you feel better sitting tight a little bit in the draft when I'm up players. I've bought more players. So suddenly I'm out buying teams. I'm at 6 players in 6 rounds. I might be at 8 players in 6 rounds where other guys still have to work. So suddenly I'm out of the draft. I'm taking a rest, and I just let the old nominate who you don't want go to work, and all the $20 and $30 overpay go out there and grind everybody down, and they catch back up to me. So do it with sleepers. I mean, I was really doing it in resistance because if it's going to be Vlad, let's just do it. Let's just have it out with Vlad. It was going to be Robert. Go ahead. Let's do it. Let's see how high we're going to go. We'll just do it right away. It could have been a stud. It could have been Tatis. And then if it was going to be Key Bryan or Shohei, I mean, I did it in one of these. I did it in one of these drafts. This is what shocks me. Let me see if I can get back to this. In the draft here, so I'm doing this on purpose. I'm nominating these guys. Robert, I probably nommed him and bought him. Bichette, 38. Suddenly, I nom Shohei Ohtani, the batter, and met no resistance. They handed him to me for $3. Do you guys see what Ohtani's doing this season? Please tell me somebody in the listener league, somebody who's been following has a little bit of Shohei Ohtani, the batter. Please. It's just not that much resistance. So I like how I'm doing it there. I mean, I guess I can see that I have my 12 players at 110 picks. Go over to a couple of these other teams. Their 12th player might be at 136. We got a 12th player right here at 217. So in general, I'm getting my money in higher in the draft. Still throwing the brakes on and doing some of those live late principles. So I just want to share that. We're going to explore that strategy more. I mean, I think we got to tinker to see what works. And that's one thing that maybe we'll lead off next season on the really aggressive nomination. Let's cross over here to the next league. We got 8 more teams. This is the big opening day eve S cap, the big opening day eve salary cap, and it's a good fitting name that it's the big because we got big rosters. Let's get over to the draft results here. I'm just kind of freestyling this, so I got a different order that I want to go in with you guys. I think I want to go right by the rankings. Let's go in reverse order. Phillies 2021, 8th place, 6-14-0. Getting off to a little bit of a slow start here. Phillies team, we ended up going to maximum roster sizes here. I believe we've got about 30 players. And just to give you guys a sense of how we expanded the rosters, I did a little bit of calculation about going from 12 teams down to 8. I decided to expand the outfield to 4 spots, utility to 3 spots, add in a corner infield and a middle infield. 4 ILs, probably should add more. Added an SP, added an RP with 4 Ps, and I think about 7 bench. So Phillies is hurting a little bit right now. He just lost Santander to the IL. He lost Juan Soto to the IL. He's already got Segura on the IL and Teoscar on the IL, combined with Syndergaard, Severino, and Carrasco all in the IL. I mean, that's just the kind of carnage he's dealing with. But let's check out how he drafted and put this team together. Blake Snell for 31, I like. Mookie Betts 55, Soto 60, Harper 45. So this is feeling stars and scrubsy. I also juiced the money a little bit because we were deeper. I think we went to like about 330 of money. Corey Seager 29, Teoscar 14, Liam Hendricks, Goldschmidt, Edwin Diaz, Musgrove for $4 is nice. Iglesias Fried, Rosenhall broke his heart, Urias, love it. Gets a Garrett Hampson for 1, Winker for 1, Carrasco for 1, Syndergaard, Severino, great stashes. He's got to be looking to the long term. Sheffield, Christian Javier, Lucas Sims. So obviously, I think the issue for Phillies is that he's dealing with a lot of injuries, and losing Soto might have broke his heart a little bit. He has no bench bats, so just gonna ride it out. Probably doesn't want to purge too much of his pitching because it's all quality closers. Blake Snell and Musgrove have been sick. Garrett Crockett, the reliever. Phillies has a little bit of work to do. He's obviously got to get healthy. Has that infield look, a little bit of Breggs who's been out. Just kind of dealing with the carnage. I think he had a nice draft. I mean, I like the high-end players. I like him getting a really dope outfield with 3 studs. It's just sad that one of them kind of blew a tire. But he did a nice job with the $1 players after that. Max Power. Max Power is the next team off to a little, and this is Maynard's team right here. So I got to dig into Maynard's. Shout out to Maynard out there. Obviously, he's got a little piece of Jazz Chisholm, his boy, is on the squad. Let me see how Maynard pulled his draft together here. Max Power right here. Starts out with a Mike Trout 50. Trevor Story 53. Giolito 35. Scherzer 23. So 2 big signature aces. Obviously power on the Story Trout end. Tim Anderson. There's a shortstop double tap. But it's okay here because these rosters are so deep. Basically, you're going to be able to get everybody in. Gets a little Tim Anderson. Breaks his heart a little bit. Abreu. Obviously hiding some of that White Sox magic. Keston Hiura got run up to $30. Wow. That was expensive. He wants to see a little bit more out of Keston. Lance Lynn hits the IL, hurts. Ke'Bryan Hayes, I remember that battle, Maynard. Took me up to 22 and pushed me off of him. Got a piece of Ke'Bryan. Thought he struck lightning, and then we got the wrist. Zach Plesac, who's been decent, but we need that last little bit out of him. Leody Taveras, who I was high on. Matt Olsman, Gaussman, Madrigal, Moustakas, Tristan McKenzie, Jansen, Swanson, Kluber, Schwarber, Riley, Scuball. These are all players. Menard was locked in. Finished it off with Duvall and Miles Straw for speed. It's all there. It's all there for Max Power, who I'm in a battle with right now. Let's just talk about this battle, Maynard, and this Max Power. I got him in pitching right now. I'm at a tighty whip. I have 59 Ks, tighty ERA, but Max Power is indeed powering me out with 24 runs, 27 ribbies, hitting 331. Gosh, what kind of adjustments were you making here in season? Got to go back here off the matchup. I think, I see you getting into Dylan Carlson, jumping on some Akil Baddoo. I like Akil Baddoo. I think Akil Baddoo looks like he's breaking out. Yerman Mercedes, Hira, who else was added? Running out some Eaton, some Ryan McMahon. Definitely filling it out. Olsen's been pretty nice here. Kenley Jansen's got some Yimi Garcia, Lucas Sims, Dustin May, who won a late roster spot, Mackenzie Gaussman. I think Max Power is going to be a pretty serious player all season. Looking to see how that team develops Health is going all right for him right now. Hopefully Trout's situation is not serious. After that, we got Swag City in the 6th spot. Oh, Swag City. We recall what Swag City was doing in the draft. Swag City got in this draft and was aggressive, was some of the most aggressive price enforcing that I've ever seen in a salary cap draft. Was just pushing guys around, bidding all the time. We got a Luis Castillo 25, Trey Turner 52, Ian Anderson 16, Corbin Burns up to 40. I was the other one in there. Swag City pushes me off of Corbin Burns, who I was nomin grabbing, who at $40 I just couldn't see doing, but now feel as though I missed out on what Corbin Burns has delivered. Manny Machado 36, Cody Bellinger 37. Gotta get him back. Arozarena 25, McNeil 10, LeMahieu 19, Dylan Moore, Meadows, Blackman, Conforto, Barrios, Grisham, Darnold, Corbin, Karinchak, Muncy, McCullers, Dominic Smith until the money ran out. 21 players in the first 136 picks. $1 Lopez, Colome, Kimbrel, Montero, Donaldson, Trevor Rogers. So a lot of value late for Swag City. 8-11-1. Is up 7-3 over Blazers right now as we speak. Could be a big win. I know they're in quite a battle right now. Any kind of adjustments made? We see they've added a Verdugo, bouncing it around. A lot of multi-position eligibility galore. So there's people are bouncing in and out of the lineup. Dave Sclafani is on the team, working through Dallas Keuchel. A lot of closers between Barnes, Colome, Montero, Kimbrel, Karinchak, who hasn't gotten that save yet. Swag City's going to be a player this season. Brandon's cool team. Shout out to Brandon. Gotta give shout out to Brandon. Brandon misses the draft. Probably thought it wasn't going to go down because we were at 7 teams. And this is where if I had just started the league fresh, I had merged everyone together, everybody would have known it was going to happen. So Brandon missed out. My apologies, B. But B jumps back in there like an OG, starts managing that team. And let's see. I won't talk about the draft. We'll just give him the management. Williams Astudillo, the sweet hitting, got some Ty France putting in work. Lindor, Jose Ramirez, Xander, Gallo, Bryant Castellanos, Pham, JD, and Devers. You know they're both putting in work. Albies and Suarez on the bench. So quite an array of bats for Brandon's team. Pitching-wise, Kershaw, Strasburg, that hurts to lose that there. Closers are Chapman, Presley, Clace, Holland, Bundy, Bassett, Hook, Kikuchi, Mize, who I like, Fried, who hits the IL. So that IL is stuffed. Got a couple other players injured. Waiting for Springer to come back, Voit to come back, Rendon to come back. So Brandon's cool team is in a little bit of a rough patch on the injury front, but is up 6-2 over Savant Kings. So he's got it working this week. Brandon's team's looking solid. Let's talk about Savant Kings, who's up next here. Savant Kings. How does the draft go for Savant Kings? Let me see where his head was at. Savant Kings gets out Freddie Freeman, really an all-value team. Just can see it right from the beginning. We have the dog. Nobody's worth more than $40. Let's see. Savant Kings. Freddie Freeman, 36. Alberto Mondesi, 30. So we've yet to see the full potential of the squad. Bueller and Flaherty, love it. It's so sexy at pitching. Arenado, Ozuna. Tyler Glass now for 27. More pitching. Whit Merrifield. Gleyber Torres. I know I'm there with you. $29. It's got to come here at some point. Will Smith, the catcher, like it to deal with the headaches. Kettle Marte. There's another kind of middle infielder just hurt to injury. Rosario, Lamet, Hoskins, Montas, Solak, Edmond. Freddie Peralta for $1. Get on it. Stroman, Garrett, Price, Hicks, Soroka, Urquidy, Pollock, Carlson, J.D. Davis. I like this squad's pitching. I like the sexiness of it. I like where your head was at the whole way through. Or is it Pollock for 1, Jake McGee? So Savant Kings was locked in to a nice squad. I want to see, when I look at the lineup, It's just the Glaber hurting you a little bit. Mark Cannot in the outfield not starting today. Working through it with Moncalso and Jed Lowry. Cruz has been a beast. Reese Hoskins underrated. Rizzo. The pitching staff is pretty nice. When you got Bueller, Flaherty, Glass now holding it down with closers, with the resurgent Freddie Peralta, needs more out of Paddock. It's unfortunate what happened with Lamet blowing up right there, but it looks like Savon Kings is ready to go this season, ready to get it done. Getting into the top, here we go. I got myself is in here, so it's all tight up to the third spot at 9, 9, and 2. I'm in the third spot. It was hard to get money in here. Swag City was pushing around. Everybody was doing it. But I end up with the Pete Alonso, Cavan Biggio, Guerrero, and Bichette. No, I did not want to have the entire Toronto lineup on my team at once, but it just works out that way. Jared Walsh, Brandon Lowe, Soler, Robert, Tucker, Alvarez, another teammate combo. I got Kiriloff this morning. Happy about that. Josh Bell, Otani, the batter, Schwarber, Kepler's hurt, Lux is hurt. I'm pitching to Savale, Rodon, Zach Gallen. Closer, Smith handbarred just enough, waiting for Kopech. Maeda killing me, but I'm deep on some extra arms. So when you see me, you're gonna see Case, Trevor Rogers, Matz, Male, Luzardo, Woodruff, and a Patrick Corbin, stashing Nate Pearson. Like I said, Max Power and I just in a grind here, in a 4-4 battle. The weekend is gonna be big for both of us. But let's get back over. Let's see the top teams here. Blazing Blazers, 15-5. How does he put this together? He's down 3-7 to Swag City. He's working a Yuli Gurriel, as Eduardo Escobar, David Fletcher. That's a little soft in the middle infield for me. Tatis Jr., Carlos Santana, Wendell, Judge, Brantley, Lewis, Mancini, Turner. It's a classic team. It's a 2018 kind of team. With Ronald Acuna, who's finally back. Losing Yelich hurts. Losing Altuve hurts, but it's got Darvish, Yanoa, Trevor Bauer, Gibson, Fulmer, Morton. I see a Blazing Blazers that's just been working the wire, tightening his team up. He's hit the wire 21 times, and the number one overall team so far this year. Let's see how he did it. Some Tatis Jr., Jake DeGrom. And this was interesting. Tatis Jr. kind of zigs when everybody zags and says, I'm going to get pitching. Jake DeGrom, 50. Shane Bieber, 39. Garrett Cole, 42. Hader, 19. Nola, 32. The pitching is just crazy. Contreras for 10, who's been great. Realmuto for 21. Wow, a double tap at catcher. Zach Gallen, Javi Baez, Gary Sanchez. Kyle Hendricks for 6. Salvador Perez, another catcher, a third catcher, unbelievable, draining the catcher pool. Hyun-Jin Ryu for 9, more pitching. And then amazingly, Stanton, Buxton, the Yaz, Greinke for 7, Josh Gray for 8. You're talking about a pitching staff that's ridiculous. Franmil Reyes, Verdugo. Maybe Tatis Jr. saw in this deep league that he was going to be able to find hitting late and said, you know what? These guys aren't going to run me up on studs, so I'm just going to go get pitching. How is it working out? Let's see where Tatis Jr. down 2-6 to Phillies this week. Phillies giving him a little run for his money. What are the pitching stats? Somehow Phillies has some Tatis Jr. with a 2.25 ERA and has him in whip. How is that possible, Tatis Jr.? What are your arms doing? So even studs can get blown up a little bit. These guys are in a battle. This is going to go down to the wire. But let me just go back. Some Tatis Jr., some nice Tatis Jr. in the infield. Votto, Hernandez, Chapman, Baez. With Will Myers, Adam Frazier, Ramon Laureano, the Yaz, McCutcheon, Brian Reynolds, Salvi Perez, Contreras, and Buxton. Really had to just play in those three catchers. So it's a little catcher-heavy approach. I see Javi already hit a dinger today, so that's good. The pitching, it's going to be a long week for Phillies here. He's got Greinke and DeGrom to go today, so those numbers could change drastically in an instant. I think that week in and week out, you're not going to want to mess with some nice Tatis Jr.'s pitching. pretty studly squad. So when I'm looking at the drafts overall, everybody's locked in. We know what players to get late. We're making good decisions. Not a lot of overspends, nothing crazy. I think we'll continue to talk about strategy next season. Those are my couple observations on the players. Shout out to everybody in the leagues. We're hungry. I need 3 more owners to jump in and manage some squads if you guys want to get in. Maybe hit me in the comments or an email. Shout out to all the ladies and gentlemen watching out there. Holler back.